So this was a review that was supposed to come out weeks ago. I was listening to this album like all throughout the beginning of December, and yeah, I'm only getting a chance now to sit down and review it, so let's dive into it. Phanerozoic 1, Paleozoic by The Ocean. So The Ocean is a German progressive technical death metal band type of an operation that we have. They're really fun. This is their 8th studio album, and if I'm being perfectly honest, the first studio album that I heard from them. I honestly had no idea what to expect, and when I was looking at the album cover and all the past album covers of this band, without even looking at the genre of music that they were playing in, I thought I was expecting some space rock, some trippy ambient noise rock, and that is not what I got, which is completely fine. I am a-okay with what we have found here, because what we've got are some really standout musicianships in the technical progressive metal. What I really love is their use of the mellows and the harshes. This is something that a lot of bands kind of struggle with, but only a few are able to master them. The only ones that I'm thinking of are probably, like, Between the Buried and Me is probably the easiest comparison to make of these guys. So the overall concept of this album, because it's a two-parter, we have part 1 this year, and then part 2 I believe is coming out in 2020. It's taking a look at, well, just what the title says. It's the Paleozoic era of the eons, being the different phases within the geological makeup of the Earth. And the Paleozoic is the explosion of life on the planet. The first one covers kind of the before the dinosaurs. So this is covering all the, like, hard-shelled, just coming out of the ocean kind of life forms. And each one kind of subdivides that era even further within the geological mini eras that they have. It starts off with the Cambrian explosion, which is just kind of a breath of life, essentially, and it mirrors that very, very well, which then comes into Cambria 2, Eternal Recurrence. It gets heavy, and it gets heavy hard, and before I dive too far into the music and into the concept, I want to get kind of talking about why it's taken me so long to actually review this album, because I've probably listened to this album more than a lot of the other albums this year, and that's only in preparation for this review. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this album, and that's providing the biggest drawback for me when I'm trying to review it. Like, outside of going through each track and summarizing what I'm hearing, I don't really know what else to say. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely isn't a good thing. And it's not a bad thing in that, as I said at the beginning, I really felt myself attached to these songs. I really felt myself grooving along to them. I really felt like that heavy atmosphere blended with a very, like, psychedelic approach within this type of music was very, like, up my alley. I really, really enjoyed that. But coming into, like, specific things about this album of, like, what it made me feel, like, it moved me in that kind of sense. But, you know, I think the best comparison that I can make of this, and I've been thinking about this for quite a while, it's like reading a really well-written, like, science textbook, in that I'm absorbing the information, I'm really getting it, but at the end of the day, if you ask me, like, specifics, unless I'm, like, actively studying it, I'm not going to be able to remember too much about it. And that's maybe just my own way of processing information. And this is the other thing that I will say as praise of the album, is the more time I spent with it, the more I ended up enjoying it. Each song brings us through a different chapter of the Paleozoic era. So obviously, as I said, song 2, it's the Cambrian era. Then we have the, and I'm going to butcher all these, by the way, if you haven't already figured that out, Ordovicium, the Galacticum of Gondwana. Oh, geez, I butchered that one, the 3rd track. The 4th track, though, is probably my favorite out of all the bunch, and that's the, what is it, Silurian, the Age of the Sea Scorpions. And I love just the rhythmic side of things. Like, it starts off very rhythmic in terms of the presentation there. It's very hard-hitting. It's almost very relentless as well. But when we come down into the more smooth aspects, this is where that space rock comes in. And it feels like you're floating away on those vast oceans where these sea scorpions are coming in. And what I really like is the play out where we have within this track just that that I don't even know what it is that I can properly put my finger on. It feels so fresh, it feels so new within this style of music as well. The last 3 tracks though, of Deviant, Nascent, and then the Carboniferous Rainforest Collapse, and Permian, the Great Dying. These last 3 tracks are fine, and I really enjoy them. And I like the fact that the album actually has like a clear endpoint with the Great Dying. It's not like a lot of those 2-part albums where they kind of leave it on a cliffhanger. This one has like a succinct end, and it's probably the most catchy of all the songs. It's probably the one that, if the band were to try to give this airplay, this would probably be the one. It's the most straightforward song, and it's very catchy, as I said before. And overall, like, as I said at the beginning, unless I'm summarizing this album, like, I realized as I'm talking about it, I have a lot more to say than I initially thought I did. But yeah, it was a really hard album for me to kind of sit down and review because I didn't exactly know what to say about this album. Outside of the fact that I really enjoyed the time that I had in it, and like, being so late in 2018, and we're still showing that we have some amazing music to really dive into. And this album being the first album from the Ocean that I've heard, it really like swept me away, and I looked forward to like listening to it. But at certain points I'm like, okay, what am I going to say about this album? And that's kind of where I was having the difficulty. Now, in terms of the rating, this one was actually pretty easy to rate. This one is definitely a download. This is one that I had no problem investing in and having on my computer to listen to at any time that I had. Like, the concept of being the first eon of like really big life here, that was a really cool concept, and one that I'm excited to see where they're going to take it from, because there are 2 major eras after this, and apparently it's only supposed to be a 2-parter album. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of take care of the Mesozoic era with the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous periods, to see how they're going to split that up. So maybe it'll be like a 3 epic track Goliath or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, that's about it for Phanerozoic Part 1, Paleozoic from the Ocean. What did you guys think? I know that this is getting quite a bit of buzz, and it's getting a lot of really high ratings, as a lot of Ocean albums are. So I need to dive in and discover their past discography. So what did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.